on yet, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to replay this. Whoops, sorry. Cut too soon. Wow, I'm really out of practice here, out of sync. I thought that was the uneducated intro. So let's cut to it. Oh, yeah, there it is. All right, so Brandon, it's just you and me today. This is where we're at.
We live?
We are live. Yep. All right, this is Uneducated, and it's Friday at 10 o'clock, and we have a couple really interesting things to talk to you about. Brandon's with me today. Brandon, it's good to have you here with me.
Thank you, thank you.
Hopefully we've checked some audio things. Actually, Brandon's mic, I think it died, so we switched him over to a different mic, and I think the volume on his mic should be much better now today, so we should be good. And I'm running the things back here on the computer, so if it gets a little choppy, hey, we apologize. But listen, this is Uneducated, and if you are watching us on YouTube and you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, make sure you subscribe and click the bell so you can get notifications of upcoming videos and live streams that we do. And then if you're on Facebook watching us, make sure you like and you share, because the more we share our videos, we get the content out there to people that need the content. So today, we're going to be talking about Jesus and goodness, and whether it's Jesus who teaches us how to find our own goodness, or whether it's Jesus' goodness that actually begins to live in us and change us. And so what I wanted to do today is I wanted to share a video of an interview by, let's see, Russell Brand. And I don't know if you know Russell Brand, but Brandon, you said you kind of knew him as an actor, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of stuff has he been in? Do you know?
Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Oh, okay, Forgetting Sarah Marshall. So if there's any of you out there that are fans of that movie, was that a good movie, Brandon, or no? I've never seen it.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty funny, but I don't think it's kid friendly.
Oh, okay. So when you say kid friendly,
well, yeah, I think it's rated R, I want to say.
Oh, really?
It's like a comedy rated R, maybe.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay.
I think he wasn't he a ex-addict too?
Who, Russell?
Yeah.
He may have been.
I think he was addicted to heroin, maybe.
Yeah, he may have been. It's interesting. Just for our Facebook viewers, if you're on Facebook, okay, Facebook's just running really late. I don't know why there's a lot of latency on Facebook, but YouTube seems to be keeping up with us, so we're good. All right. All right, so here's what I want to do. Jordan Peterson is a Canadian professor of psychology, and he was at the University of Toronto, although I think he's taken a break for a while from his teaching. But in 2010, he gained a lot of popularity with his criticism of gender identity expression, and the whole idea behind it is that in Canada, a certain bill was trying to be passed concerning gender identity and personal pronouns, and whether or not you could dictate whether people, it could be law that people had to use personal pronouns, or else it would be a form of hate speech if you wouldn't use a personal pronoun to refer to somebody who wanted to be referred to as a he or a she or an it. Or I think there's almost 26, if not more, gender pronouns. There's probably more than that actually now that people want to be referred to, I guess, as their gender specific name or how you refer to people. And so he criticized and spoke out really strongly about that bill, and really fought against that. And he gained a lot of popularity in 2016 when he started unleashing videos on YouTube about that. But he's also spoken into manhood and guys, boys without fathers, and how that affects boys and their manhood and those kind of things, and how necessary it is to have a father figure in your life that teaches you good morals and standards. And so he's been a really strong voice in Canada for that, but he's also made himself very popular here in the U.S. In a lot of different YouTube and shows. So he was being interviewed by this Russell Brand, and I want to just play the interview for everybody. real quick, and then I want to get your opinion or your thoughts, Brandon, on what they said, and then I want to talk a little bit about maybe what they were shooting for. All right, so here is the video, and Brandon, you'll just have to put your earpiece in if you want to hear it. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do, Brandon. We're going to listen to that one more time. And I apologize because I realized that I shut our audio off. I apologize to you guys. So here's what we're going to do. I know you could read the words, but I want you to kind of hear Jordan Peterson. And to be honest, as deep as what they're saying, and we're going to try to make it really simple. But what they're talking about here as unbelievers, it's going to be easier for you to listen to it maybe one more time, a second time. And so I'm going to go ahead and take it from the top. Hold on. So, yeah, okay. So what I did was, and I'll just tell you, this is an accident of mine. I turned the audio off thinking that I didn't want anybody to hear us in the background, and I needed the audio to be on for you to hear the thing. So here we go. I'm going to cut to that, and I'm going to play that. And again, remember, this is Jordan Peterson and Russell Brand having this discussion about Jesus being the perfect mentor, and why would he be a mentor, and exactly in his mentoring, does he teach us how to be good, or does he teach us how to find goodness in ourselves? And then we're just going to talk about that real quick. So I'm going to run to that right now. Okay, guess what? We're gonna try this again. Third time's a charm. Um, I think what happened was is I had the computer muted in the soundboard. So anybody that does YouTube or live and you try to make the setup really complicated and you've got a soundboard over there and you've got a camera over here and you've got the computer over here, it makes things a little more difficult. So actually, this is a good thing. I'll just tell you that we are planning on trying to create a YouTube studio and make it dedicated just to our podcast. So hopefully that'll get easier. But then again, some people would say, well, if the doofus that was working everything actually knew what he was doing, then that would make it easier too, right, Brandon?
True, true.
Yeah, yeah. So, but we're gonna try and do this one more time, real quick, and let you listen to it, and hopefully this time it's gonna work. Now, here's what I want you to do: as soon as we have sound on this video, I want you to tell me so that I know I'm not gonna let you run through this whole video again with no sound. All right. So here we go. Let's try it again. Okay, so the third time is not a charm. So here's what we're gonna do. You have read it probably because you should have been able to see the reading on it. So you should have read it. Anybody out there can't read? And I'm being serious here because I know some people struggle with reading or they just don't want to read, so they figure I'm not going to read it. Um, all right. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're just going to
Just
jump.
put a link up for it or something.
What's that?
Can you put a link up for
Yeah,
it?
I'll put the link down below so that you can see the link. And so here's what I'll do. I'll put the link following this video. I'll put it on there so that you can watch it and listen for yourself. But here's the deal. Russell Brand is talking to Jordan Peterson, and they're trying to figure out. Jordan Peterson makes the comment that the ultimate mentor is Christ. Now, Jordan Peterson, mind you, is not a believer in Jesus at this point that we know of. Now, there are some Christian communities that have listened to a couple videos that he's put out, and he's made a couple comments about the fact that he believes in Christ, or he believes that Christ was real, but I do not know that he's put his actual faith in Christ. And so Christians are getting all crazy because now all of a sudden they think they have a conservative voice for Christ switching over, which is not a bad thing. It's not bad. I mean, obviously we want Jordan Peterson to come to know Christ as well as Russell Brand and everybody else in the world. However, it doesn't seem that that's where he's at just yet. So he says that Christ is the ultimate mentor, and then in the process, Russell Brand starts to press him a little bit and says, okay, so tell me about this Christ, and how do the stories of the Old Testament, how do they, this old God that used to be kind of a God where we had to try and be good to earn God's, I guess, favor, and we had to overcome good and evil and those kind of things. And he tries to ask him the question of how does Christ being the perfect mentor, how does the Old Testament evolve into the New Testament of Christ being the perfect mentor? And then, of course, Jordan Peterson tries to talk about it, but he kind of, in a very deep philosophical and psychological way, he says this: the best element of God can be brought forth as a consequence of the manifestation of what's best in us. So he said, like, things like people like to sacrifice or to trust or to love your enemy. But then he makes this comment that God makes us as good as we could be, or if we were trying to be as good as we could be, then being good might invite the deity of love into existence in us. So my thought is this: after you watch this 4-minute video, you see these guys talking in some really deep using some really big words and deep thoughts and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, what they're trying to say is that Jesus is this really great teacher who can have some practical use in the life of any individual. And the idea is that Jesus might be able to bring out the good that is in us or help us to achieve or recognize the good that is in us. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that with you, Brandon, because when I think about that, I think that's just the opposite of what the Bible teaches. So, Brandon, just real quick out of what I said, do you have any thoughts at all? Because you were here. Actually, Brandon was hearing it because we could hear it in our intercoms, but obviously you guys couldn't hear it.
That video is pretty confusing to me.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have any thoughts on it. I'm sorry.
Okay, so then let me walk us this way then. So here's one of the issues when really intellectual minds get together, and I got to be honest here. I had to listen to this like 3 or 4 times just to kind of figure out where they were running with it. And then even after I did that, I still think a lot of what they were saying was just a lot of words. Like, matter of fact, some of the stuff that they said, I don't even think the sentences made sense. Now, you could say, well, that's Brian because you're uneducated and you do a show that's called Uneducated. Well, listen, I did figure this out, that both of them, no matter how they were saying it, were trying to figure out whether or not Jesus was worth taking time to practically use the things that he said to help people find their own good in them. Now, the Bible clearly says that there is nothing good in any of us, that none of us, well, I shouldn't say nothing good in us, that none of us does good, not even one. Paul said that, and the psalmist said that. And so Paul's quoting the psalmist when he says that. And the idea of goodness comes from the fact that we were created in the image of God to be good. And yes, we can do some good things, but usually when we do good, those good things are usually bound up in some sort of selfishness or self-pleasing motive. And so ultimately then what we think we're doing for good is actually a selfish thing. And so until Christ comes into our life, we don't really understand the standard of good because Christ is good. He's not someone who comes to help us realize that we are good or that there's some good in us, but Christ is the standard of good, and then when we go to him and get to know him, then he teaches us not how to live or be good. He teaches us who he is, and then by his Spirit, he leads us into doing good. So, Brandon, does that make more sense?
Yeah. Bottom line is, get saved, and you'll find out how much of a piece of crap you really are.
Okay. Well, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it.
Is that good?
And when you say piece of crap, what you're saying
I
is...
thought I was a good person.
Okay,
and
good.
I did a lot of good stuff for people, but ultimately, I wasn't.
Okay.
And yeah, all that stuff will be revealed to you whenever God wants to reveal it to you, I think.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, at least that's my experience.
Okay. No, that's a good thought. So let me ask you this then, Brandon. When you think about, say, doing something good, it's possible then for people, you just said yourself that you've done good things. So it's possible for people to do good things, but tell us the difference between when you used to try to do good things and now that Christ is in your life and leading your life. Well, what's that look like? How's that different?
I think it just has a different meaning now or feeling, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know on that one. Like maybe helping people more than I did. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
But
so
I'm sorry, I'm not very in tune today.
No, that's all right. So then, let me ask you this then. Has Jesus, at the core of your being, has he redefined what actual goodness is?
To me, yes.
Okay. Is there any way you could put like a phrase or a word on that? Like, because I know, like when you said it wasn't until I came to Jesus that I found out how much of a piece of crap I was, you said. Now, that's the way you termed it, which is totally fine. The Bible says that when we come to know Christ, it's actually we find out that we're sinners.
Yeah,
That we
I think,
can't, that we're not good. We're
Ri-
actually sinners.
right. I think he's just revealed to me that, whether I swore every day or, you know, wasn't, I didn't say nice things to my fiance or stuff like that, or, you know, that's all changing slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And all that stuff adds up to be a better person, I think.
Right.
You
Right.
know.
Okay. So, Brandon, some people are saying that you're too low, and I think what the difference is that I'm really strong. I really speak strong. So just pull that
Let
up and talk as
me
close as
talk
you
a little
can.
louder.
Yeah, talk a little louder. Pull it up because here again, this is one of the problems is that the soundboard is way over there. So for me to turn him up, I got to get up out of this chair and maneuver around a bunch of wires to get to
I'll
the
talk
sound.
louder.
What's that?
I'll talk louder.
Okay, all right. And I think you'll do better with that anyway, louder. Anyway. Okay. So then, here's my ultimate thought today that I just kind of wanted us to talk about, and that is if you go back to something as simple as Psalm 23, and there's a lot of people that know Psalm 23. Are you familiar with Psalm 23, Brandon?
I am.
Okay, so even though Brandon has not been in the church for a long time, and he's someone who's just kind of started to follow Jesus, um, Psalm 23 is one of those psalms that most people have either heard at a funeral or they've talked about. So Psalm 23 starts out like this: "The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemy. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy," some versions say love, and goodness and love, "will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." Now, when you look at Psalm 23, the shepherd there is the Lord. It's Jesus Christ. And it doesn't say anything in there about him teaching us how to be good. It says that he provides all of the goodness for us. He leads us beside quiet waters. He restores our soul. He's there when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death. We fear no evil because he is with us. His rod and his staff, they comfort us. So God is not this external being that is giving us some help or some resources to live life. He has promised that when we put our trust in him as our Savior, that he will come to empower us and live through us. See, that's the only way that a person can be changed. So, Brandon, what you're talking about here is that you came to a place where you said, hey, I'm a sinner and I need Jesus. And when that happened, your life was actually transformed.
It was. It was.
So you're not trying necessarily to be a better person now. You're getting closer to God, and God's going to make you a better person.
Correct.
And see, that's the difference. So Jordan Peterson and Russell here, what's his name? Yeah, Russell Brand. They're good guys, and they're trying to figure this out. But the intellect is making them miss the simplicity of humbling themselves. They are going to have to humble themselves before the God of all creation and before the person of Jesus Christ and the sacrifice that he made in order to grab on to this idea of what's really good. Because ultimately, Jesus is the only one that's really good. And when they grab onto him, then his goodness will fill their lives and he will begin to change them. Brandon, can you add anything to that, or you want to add anything to that?
No, you summed it up pretty good there.
Okay.
I like that.
All right. So then here is the next thing, and I want to run us to this. I pulled this up on the Christian Post, and I'm going to go ahead and share this screen with you all. And guess what? You don't have to worry about listening to this screen because we get to read it, and we're going to read it together. And so hopefully you don't have to worry about listening. And before I do that, I probably should make sure. Okay, so they just say Brandon's too low, but I think they can hear everything else, so I think everything else is good. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share this screen with you. This is on Christian Post, April 15th. So yesterday it posted. It says over a quarter of college and high school students never attend church. That's what the new poll finds. Now, I want to clarify this. When it says attends church, it gives a breakdown later, and it talks about the fact that there's only so many that are Protestant and so many Catholic. So this is a huge amount of different types of religions that they're talking about here. This is not just Christian. But it says here that they suggest that nearly 30% of high school and college students never attend religious services, never attended, that's past tense, religious services even before coronavirus. Young Americans Foundation, which is a conservative youth advocacy organization, released a poll Wednesday citing young Americans, or asking young Americans for their views on various issues, including taxes, economy, student debt, coronavirus, education, and the country's most prominent political figures. So I want to take you down here, and I want to scroll down to here. Now, look at this. Among high school students, 15% said they attend religious services a few times a year. So in this poll, only 15% said they attend religious services a few times a year, and then 10% reported that they attend religious services only on religious holidays, and 9% said they preferred not to say anything about it. 15% of post-high school students, which that would be like after high school, college age, claim to attend religious services a few times a year, while 14% said they only attend on religious holidays, and then 9% said they didn't want to say anything. So look at what the person that wrote this article says. In an interview with the Christian Post, spokesperson Kara Zupkas attributed the low religious attendance rates among young Americans to, now get this, quote, a trend in our culture where a lot of younger people nowadays are idolizing pop culture and politicians. So this is what she says. This is what Zupka says. So they don't really need to find, in their view, a place where they can worship a god. Now, Zupkas goes on to say, describing the trend as concerning, Zupkas warned that that it can lead to young people depending more on their government to take care of them instead of their churches and local communities. Now, for the next, 20 minutes or so, Brandon, I want us to kind of talk about this because as a younger millennial, and I think you're still a millennial, right?
I would think, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're a millennial. So as a younger person, what's the deal with younger people? Because I think that Kara Zupkas got it right in there saying that younger people today are finding their hope and their provision in pop culture and in politicians and governments instead of depending on God. And I'm wondering if the church hasn't caused them to do that. And I'm going to talk about why I think maybe that. But Brandon, I just want your thought on that.
Ultimately, I think, the government's just helping people with money and whatnot, and not really a religious aspect. And I think that people need to be brought to their knees, and that's how you find God, at least for me. That's the bottom line. And I carved a rough road for myself to get here,
Mm-hmm.
And it was a hell of a road. So that's really all I got to say about that.
Okay. So let's just break this down a little bit, because if what Zupka said is true, if young people are depending on the government and pop culture and the things of this world to take care of them and to provide their meaning and their destiny for living and all those kind of things, and they don't really need a God. They don't need to go somewhere to worship a God. And again, I think
it's just provided of this world. of
Right.
this. You know what I mean?
No,
That's
you're exactly right. I just want to go back to this, just a breakdown. I want to say if I can find it here, and maybe I won't be able to find it. It gave the percentage of breakdown. It was actually more Catholics that were in this group. It was a lower percent of Protestants. I think there were a few Jewish constituents that were in this study, this poll that was done. I probably won't be able to find it now. I hate to. Okay, here it is. Um, this is a plurality of young Americans surveyed identified as Catholic. 23% identified as Catholic. 14% described themselves as evangelical Protestant born again Christians. And 6% said they belonged to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And then 2% were Muslim, 3% were Protestant, just mainline Protestant. So that's kind of your breakdown of the constituents in there, which is kind of sad because it looks like the largest percentage are the Catholic Church and evangelical Protestants, which means that these people actually say that they believe in God and they believe in Jesus, but yet they don't find any significance in him in their lives. And if what Zupka says is correct, then that means
that goes back to people not being brought to their knees.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Bottom line.
Right. Okay, so then let's just talk about that a little bit. So young people look at the church, and they see the church as a place where people go in on Sunday, and they sing some songs, and some guy gives a message, and they all leave there, and they go back out, and they all, I'm telling you, man, like if you go into any mainline evangelical Christian church, a huge percentage of people will go to church, they'll get back out of church, and then Jesus only kind of comes up when they want to make a point or when they feel like
something's wrong in their life.
Something's wrong in their life, yep, or they want to make a strong point. So even if you go back to like the current arguments that Christians are having right now about this whole pandemic thing, there are Christians on both sides that are trying to use Jesus to validate their claims. And in my opinion, Jesus is concerned about one thing. He's concerned about changing the heart of people. And at the end of the day, Christians who fight and argue about all this stuff, I think, need to get a different take on what Jesus is all about, because it's not good for us to be fighting and arguing over that kind of stuff. It's better for us to be having civil discussions about how God can change our hearts. So what happens, Brandon, and you tell me this if this isn't true in your experience, you see Christians going to church and then they leave and they depend on their governments and they depend on different stuff in the world, and they're into pop culture just as much as the other person, and Jesus is really just a small little microcosm of their actual life. And
Until
we as a church and as Christians have taught our young people that that's all Jesus is. He only gets about 9% of your yearly worship, which is what that thing says. Only like 9% said they go, 15% said they go on religious holidays. And that's all he gets. He gets 15%. And that's the majority of Christians. Even Christians that go to church like 2 or 3 times a month, he just gets a small part, microcosm of their life. Has that been your experience, Brandon, with most Christians, or what? How would you say that?
I think that's with most people.
Okay.
To be honest.
Okay, so the Christian going to church, they leave church, and do you think that they act like people who have been transformed, or do you think they're just kind of people that go to a social event?
It's probably more of a social event.
Okay.
You know? I mean, that I've seen.
All right.
But I only been involved for not too long, so.
All right, so let me ask you this then. Are there any specific people in your life that say they know Jesus and you look at them and you go, yeah, I believe that those people are really being transformed?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Now, would you say that number's small compared to the people you know that go to church?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I think therein lies part of our problem. I think that young people today, if they see people going to church and it's not changing their life, then why would they go to church?
I agree.
So I don't know how you fix that problem. Maybe if we have some people on Facebook or on YouTube that want to share and give some comments, That would be really cool because we can kind of run off of that. But I think at the end of the day, that goes back to Jordan Peterson and Russell Brand's idea of goodness. You see, if all of a sudden Jesus can show up and he can help you maybe make more money, or he can help you fulfill your destiny as an actress or an actor or an athlete, then maybe you could use him 15% of the time.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. People don't need to wait till their life's in shambles to find Jesus. That's what I did.
No, that's a good point.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And why put yourself through hell? And if your life's going good now, do it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If, you're brought to a breaking point and you find Jesus, well, that's ultimately what it had to be. You know what I mean? And that's what I was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay with me. But people wait till the last minute, and all it is going to make it harder on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree.
But ultimately, the reward's the same. But I don't know. That's my opinion.
Right, right. So let me ask you this question just real quick. Where I know you talked a little bit about this last week with Matt, but what was the tipping point for you? Like, so for instance, you're in this younger generation where most people are going to church because let's face it, you've been in church more in the last 4 weeks than you've probably been probably the last 10 years.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right?
Yep.
So you were one of those people. You might not have voiced it. You might not have felt the same way, but you were one of those people that maybe went to church if you were invited. You kind of knew you probably needed God, or maybe you went there on like a holiday or whatever.
Right.
So what was so obviously the tipping point wasn't, okay, Jesus is going to help me get a better job, or he's going to help me succeed in life, or I saw this inspirational message by so-and-so. And what was the tipping point? What changed so that now all of a sudden you're going after the person of Jesus? You're not going to church. You're going after the person of Jesus. Where was the tipping point, and how'd that happen?
Ultimately, it was like not really a mental breakdown, but I felt like, who is that? Judah that betrayed Jesus, right?
Judas.
Judas?
Yeah.
Well, if you've seen The Passion of Christ, there's all those little demons just attacking him at the end, And that's what I felt like, on, beginning of March. And ultimately, I needed help. And that's why I'm here today,
Right. And the help you're getting, obviously there's some people in the church that are coming around you and helping you grow and learn all that stuff, but the help you're getting is from the person of Jesus, right? You're diving into him, and he's the one that's creating goodness and virtue and changing you and making
Absolutely.
you the person. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I think that's really important. Like, I know that people get freaked out with Christians that are Jesus freaks, like all about Jesus. But the truth of the matter is that Jesus really is all there is. I mean, there is no other.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, go ahead.
I was just going to say the spiritual warfare is basically what brought me here. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And if anybody knows about that, you know what I mean, it'll bring you to your knees real quick.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
And that is or was, the scariest time of my life.
Right.
So that's why I'm here. Because I was basically robbed, 10, 12 years of anxieties and fears and, and all that's getting taken care of day by day.
Right. 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 And that's the other thing too. I think that people are looking for a quick fix. And although Jesus saves now, like if you cry out to him, he will save you. He will send his Holy Spirit to live in you, and he will be your God if you want that. But Your
It's
life might not get changed overnight.
no, it's not a quick fix. It's you got to put everything you got into it every day,
Right.
and it's not some pill you take and it shuts that part of your brain off or whatever it might be or takes the pain away. It's constantly relying on prayer and Him,
Right.
and yeah.
No, I agree. I agree. So Brandon, let's talk a little bit about the new studio.
Mhm.
So we are, um, we've been approved by our board to take and we're revamping my office and we're turning into our new podcast YouTube studio. And with that, we're going to be creating some new videos and hopefully some things that are helpful and encouraging to you. But one of the things that I've been praying about is that everything that we put forth is not only quality, and again, nothing will be perfect, so maybe our audio won't be quite right, or maybe a video might not look the best or something like that. But we're going to do our best with on a shoestring budget to do all that, and I think we can. I think we're looking pretty good to be able to do that. But the thing that I want is I want to make sure that all the content that gets out to people is content that is glorifying to God and encouraging to them and helps them grow in their faith. So, do you have any thoughts on? Because I know since you've come to know Christ, you've been really encouraged to want to be a part of this and some of the things that Matt and I are doing with the YouTube stuff and the videos. What are your thoughts about information and what people might want to hear or need to hear or that kind of stuff?
I mean, say that again, Bry.
Well, like my thought is whenever we produce any kind of a video, I want to make sure that we're doing something that's glorifying to God, that God's, cool with, and that it encourages people, points people to God. But I also want to make sure that it's encouraging people, it's helping people in their growth. So for instance, I don't want to do a video about, makeup or whether you should do vaccines or you shouldn't do vaccines.
Yeah, it should be pleasing to God and help people get to God. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
right. Now we might like the vaccine thing might come up or
yeah, I mean, a podcast can veer off however it wants. You know what I mean?
right,
That's what they are.
right,
But I mean, the core should, obviously be for God.
right. So with that said, then, have you had any like thoughts about like future things that you say we should talk about this because I think this would be really interesting for people to think about?
Probably finding Jesus and spiritual warfare, because I think the stuff that people have floating around in their minds is not truly them. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
All right.
And I've been diving a lot into this whole head stuff and psychologist stuff the past month and a half, and that necessarily might not be you thinking that or saying that in your head. And that's crazy,
No, it is crazy. So then the spiritual warfare part, I think we could have a lot of,
Oh,
and I
that's
don't want to say this like sacrilegiously, but we could have a lot of fun with that. And the reason I say fun is because
that's gonna have to be a series, because that stuff's so deep that
oh yeah, we could talk
it's
about that for the next couple years.
yeah, it's one of the deepest subjects I think that is overlooked on this planet.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I think what you said is exactly right, though, too. People don't realize it, but we're in a battle, and it's a spiritual battle, and most people don't see it that way. And unless we identify it and figure it all out, we'll just continue to think that, oh, we're just having a bad day.
No, it ain't that.
Yeah, right, right. So I think that would be good. I think doing some stuff on spiritual warfare would be amazing because I think the people that listen in would really enjoy that. I don't know if anybody's commenting or saying whether or not that's something that they would enjoy, but no, we haven't got. here's what we got. We got all the comments about the fact that I don't know how to work the soundboard and I couldn't get the volume to work. And then the last comment we got was Rachel said, "You have no idea how many people on my Facebook are constantly saying stop using the Bible as an excuse. It's outdated, etc., etc." And so one of the things we want to do here is help people not necessarily use an excuse or
Well,
use the Bible as an excuse, but use the Bible as a way to live your life.
I say to those people, wait till you're brought to your knees.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, I think you'll change your tune pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it sucks to have that done, but ultimately that's what has to be done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah. And I, you know what, Brandon? I think that's why I wanted to use that. I wanted to show that video today, and I really apologize. I will put the link down below. And I
we could
apologize.
do a rerun on it next week too, and
Yeah, we could. But the reason I wanted to show that is because it's Jordan Peterson, who's a psychologist, and he's very intelligent. And then you've got, Russell Brand, and they're talking as if, like, they're talking up here, And yet at the end of the day, it just comes down to you won't humble yourself to let Christ be king. You want to use Christ practically to maybe, I don't know, tell yourself you're good or achieve something good. But at the end of the day, Christ's gospel was humble yourself and repent. Change your mind and your direction and start following me. Because I am the way and the life and the truth, and no one comes to the Father except through the person of Jesus Christ. So at the end of the day, that was Jesus' message. And any Christian or anybody who tries to take you in a different route is just kind of putting Jesus with every other ancient religion or faith, and it doesn't work like that. Jesus is very specific. We do not do good things. There's not good in any of us apart from God. And so we can think that there is, but there's just not. And we need him to transform our lives. And I think, like you said, Brandon, it takes for us to come to our knees and to repent.
right. And those, people like me, or that are like, that was like me. I carved a rough road to get myself here. And I think that's 90% of society right now is they're carving a bad road for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately they don't know what's going on or what they're dealing with spiritually.
Right.
You know.
Right. No, I agree. So before we leave here today, I think one of the things that we'd like for everybody to know that listens or watches uneducated is this, that
our podcasts are going to get better. It's just give us a couple more weeks. So
yeah, they are going to get better. Hopefully in content as well.
Content, everything. Lighting,
yeah.
Mics,
yeah,
video quality.
Yeah, we're going to try to do it up good. But here, at the end of the day, though, here's the bottom line. We want to make sure that people out there understand that, listen, you do not have to be educated as the world says you have to be educated. You do not need to be an expert. You just need to be somebody who sincerely wants to know the truth. And if you sincerely want to know the truth, then that's what this show's about, because we want to talk into the world, and we don't want to be of the world. And so we want to talk into the world with the voice of Jesus, because, let's think about it, Brandon. We don't really have a lot to say. At least I've coined this term, and I think I heard somebody else maybe use it one time somewhere. Oh, I heard John MacArthur say it here the other day in a sermon that he was in, or an interview. But I've said this for years. I don't have anything to say to people unless it's from the scriptures or from Jesus. Like,
what do you mean?
Like, if I try to tell people how to live or what's best or what kind of choice they should make in a situation, 9 chances out of 10, I'll probably lead them in the wrong way. So the only thing I cling to, that when I speak, that I can be 100% sure that when I speak to somebody, I'm giving them really good advice, and that's the Word of God. That's Jesus.
Yep, I agree with that. I'm learning that myself. So
So for me, that's what I want, like these podcasts to be about. That we are reaching people and helping them see that this is the way Jesus thought, and Jesus spoke into the world, but he was not of the world. And so that's why our little tagline is going to be "Talk in the world," or "In, not of the world." And so it sounds a little weird, like it's not even really a sentence. It's not even correct, but it's talk in and not of the world. And Matt kind of coined that the other day when we were looking around. But it's really a revolutionary thought, but it's not new. It was how Jesus taught. Jesus taught that we were to live in the world but not be of it. And so we're going to talk into the world, but we don't want to be of it. And so we want to be different. We want to be transformed. And Jesus does that. He transforms people's lives. And we want young and old to know that. And you know what, Brandon? I think this is going to be important too. There's a lot of old people. Maybe I should say vintage. What would be the politically correct way to say this?
I like vintage.
Vintage? Okay, vintage. Advanced in years, however you want to put this. But either way, there are people that have been in the church for a long time, and they still, for them, they're really not a lot different than the millennials today, because they aren't going after the person of Jesus. It's just religion to them.
Then ultimately they haven't found it.
Exactly. And that's, I want this show to be for them too. So this show crosses ages. It should, like, I don't want it to be geared to any one age group or geared to, people that like, I just want this to be a place where people can take part, listen to, and take part in discussion about the person of Jesus and how he can transform your life. And we'll try to do that in all kinds of practical ways and with all kinds of different issues that we're talking about. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the person of Jesus.
Agreed.
All right, so I'll tell you what. After that mess up, I thought I had everything perfect today. I mean, that board, for whatever reason, I don't understand how that could not work.
It's all right.
But
we'll get it figured out.
We'll get it figured out. So
a couple more weeks, the room will be up and going.
Yeah, we should be good. So Rachel and some of you other ones, Bob and different ones that are on there today, Bill. I think I saw Sandy was on there. Thanks for being on with us today. And I think I saw Tia, that she was listening in today. And there's probably others that I missed. But it was good to have you guys on and watching and listening with me. Although, to be honest, I haven't checked for a while. There might not be anybody watching anymore. Might be totally off. And I don't even know how to check that now. Oh, yeah, we got 3 watching on there. So, no big deal.
What's that old saying? Don't walk, run, or vice versa?
Don't what?
Don't walk, run.
Don't walk, run?
Yeah, towards Jesus.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I would. If that's not a saying, it should be.
Yeah,
maybe we can.
Maybe we can put those saying up there.
Yeah, we'll put on a T-shirt or something. So, all right. So we're gonna go ahead and get out of here for the day, and we're thankful for everybody that was on and a part of Uneducated today, and just be keeping up with us, making sure that you're subscribing if you're not a subscriber on YouTube, and make sure you're sharing our videos if you like them and you think they're worth sharing, and then we'll try to get good content out. So
let's do a spiritual warfare series, huh?
Yeah, I think we should.
Let's set that up.
Yeah, and I think maybe we'll bring some people on too to help us with that.
Yeah, we could. The good thing about the podcast room is going to be, you can have multiple guests on there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
yeah,
a comfortable atmosphere.
Yeah.
So that's what's going to be cool about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be really nice. So with that said, then we are going to get out of here today. You have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.